Alright. So, I've never made this kind of video before, so, might be a little sloppy. Um, SDF has begun burning the food in the kitchen again. We've got a plethora of new things said. I've already read through them all. I know what they all say. Long story short, it's not great. It's a big nothing burger. I'm gonna keep the window kind of like this. That way, it's a little easy to, kind of read and whatnot, follow along. But here we go. He says, and I quote on all of this, and I quote, "While it would be ideal to present an impressive roadmap, we've often fallen short in preparation and lack the ability to anticipate the future, which made us hesitant to make such attempts. Moving forward, we will make an effort to better prepare and take on the challenge of providing a clear roadmap. Before we share a full-fledged roadmap, I'd like to take a moment to explain my thoughts on the current state of the game and the direction we are heading. Although I believed I had already explained things from various angles, I've come to realize that many people are still unsure about what SDF's vision truly is. Love a good, third person. This isn't his vision. It's not this guy's vision. It's SDF's vision. This made me reflect on my lack of skill in communicating and our intentions clearly. So this time, I will try to explain things more intuitively." Just give a little bit of those, a little bit of clown. He's only said this, I don't even know how many times. A dozen, a million, literally every time he says something in the kitchen, he's talking about how he can't talk right. When we design a game, we fundamentally do not chase after currently successful formulas or create games specifically for target audiences we don't fully understand, just because that audience is large. Think about that for a second. The simple and honest reason is that we are not particularly good at developing games in that way. So, I don't even... How does this make any sense? We fundamentally do not chase after currently successful formulas. So you voluntarily go the wrong direction? You're purposefully going the wrong direction the entire time? The audience is large. That means people are liking what you're doing. Put two and two together there. But you do not fundamentally chase after those formulas. Like this whole line right here, this sentence means nothing. We are not good at developing games in that way. You're not good at listening, or not even listening. Looking at your player count. Looking at people's reactions. That's it. That's all you gotta do. You just said that you as a company do not want to chase after things that are successful. You purposefully want to fail. That is what that says. Next one. There are many great studios out there that are exceptionally good at that kind of development, but at the very least, I'm not that kind of person. That's why at a fundamental level, here we go again with the fundamentals, I make games for players who are similar to myself. I believe I've mentioned this before. So, if we're not like SDF, we're never going to like his game. It has to be a game that he likes, not what the community likes, not what anybody of the players, the 8 to 10k players that were previously playing before this wipe, not what any of them like, only what people like him like. Cool. In the beginning, the game was developed based on the principles I mentioned before, earlier. Can't read apparently. Targeting players with preferences similar to mine. However, as playtests progressed, we came to realize that a much wider range of players than we had initially expected were enjoying the game and seeing its potential. Whoa! Whoa! Yeah. Hold up a second. I made the game how I like it, but then we changed things and other people liked it? Let's revert it. We can't do that. We can't do that. I didn't like it. As a result, instead of continuing to dig deeper in the original direction we had set, we decided to shift our focus towards trying to meet the growing demands reflected in the feedback we were receiving, as you should as a game developer. You are making a game to sell, to make money off of. It's your job. Your job is to follow what the audience likes. This right here just immediately contradicts what you said earlier. As I've said before, I'm not the type of developer who excels at satisfying audiences I don't fully understand. What is there to understand? That we aren't, wanting one-shot potential Superman nonsense everywhere, and instead want a game that's fun. We want to have fun. That's hard to understand. But I didn't want to ignore the players' interest and expectations. This felt like a major opportunity, and I agreed with the decision. As you should. Listen to the audience. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you gotta, guide them to what's better. Not just immediately decide for them what they like. We discovered that our player base included solo, duo, and trio players, hardcore and casual users, those who enjoyed dungeon crawling, players who loved PvP, and others who preferred non-competitive experience. This wide range of audiences meant we had to address a variety of needs and preferences. Yes, but not all of them needed to be. If you wanted a more PvP-based game, then, this small audience, give them what you already did, which was their adventure mode. That's it. That's all they need. That's it. The dungeon crawling part, that would have been always. That would have been always. These two audiences are basically just one. He's just giving, making it something else. This wide range of audiences meant that we had... Okay, I already read that. Because we wanted to quickly build a structure that could satisfy these different groups to at least a certain degree, we ended up making a series of shallow choices and going through countless trials and error. As a result, development often felt like a series of reactions to the moment rather than deliberate long-term planning. Okay. I kind of understand that. But when your game skyrockets in popularity, you can't just immediately think about what you're going to do a year from now. There is going to be a time where you have to decide something then and there. In truth, we wanted to invest time in building deeper content that would support long-term gameplay cycles, things like training systems, personal housing, and guilds. So you wanted a survival game, not a dungeon crawler. But the shallow systems we had created early on became tangled together like a chimera, and we spent an overwhelming amount of time tuning and testing them instead. I mean, you can't even... Tuning and testing, you did the same update time after time, honestly. Most of those updates were nothing. For example, when we introduced the random modifier system, I personally had a lot of concerns. However, I wanted to realize the fantasy of creating powerful synergy-based builds like those seen in roguelike games and playing the game through that lens. That's why we decided to test the system during the playtest. And it was fun. It's cool being able to have a certain build, but it gets to a point where it's too much. You can put too much frosting on that cake. In the early stages of testing, it was actually possible to create Superman builds with extraordinary damage, health, and movement speed. Weapon damage, true damage, and additional damage values were extremely high. Despite the presence of powerful options like all attributes on multiple gear pieces, the TTK remained short enough, and with the right setup, players could strategically take on multiple opponents. At the time, the combat seemed promising to me. One-shot builds are a bit much. However, not all players enjoyed this structure. In the community, there was a considerable backlash against the one-tap meta. I wonder why. And many asked for longer TTK. Of course, some of that feedback stemmed from the gear gap, which often resulted in public stomping. But at the time, we wanted to listen to the players and try to improve things in the direction they were asking for. Terry believed from the beginning that random modifiers were inherently difficult to balance and ultimately needed to be removed. Bad idea. I initially disagreed as I supported the random modifier system. However, I eventually came to the same conclusion. Unless we made every player into a glass cannon, there was no way to provide a meaningful sense of hope when faced with the gear gap. And that's what you did. That's what you did. There was a way to provide a meaningful sense of hope when faced with the gear gap. That was one, not releasing religion immediately into, or, halfway into the wipe, causing everybody's, hard-earned gold that they, or items that they, grinded for after work, per se, to just plummet, and now they can't afford everything else that everybody else is buying. That could have alone helped with the gear gap. But anyway, at the same time, I was curious, would ideal combat really emerge if we changed the structure this way? Nope! So we gradually limited the impact of overly powerful modifiers, reduced the overall influence of random modifiers, and evolved the system to increase the time to kill. The time to kill, last wipe, didn't feel terrible all the time, but there was still a couple of times where it was just like, ah! Of course, I still couldn't fully let go of the original idea of powerful synergy-based builds. Of course you couldn't. That's why there were times when all attributes made a return or TTK was reduced again, leading to seemingly contradictory updates. Huh? We only did that 5 times. I apologize for the confusion caused by these shifts. They were the result of 2 conflicting design philosophies clashing with each other, which they shouldn't have ever been. It really shouldn't have ever been. Because it wasn't back and forth all the time. I mean, it was. And then now you just full dumped into one side. Instead of finding a happy medium, you had to pick a side. You chose to make it black and white. It could have been gray. In any case, the result is that the recent structure has shifted to one where PvP is no longer decided by just 1 or 2 mistakes, but instead through multiple exchanges. Is he talking about the update now? Because that's just blatantly wrong. You can one-tap anybody as a barb right now. Anybody. Like, it doesn't make sense. He did the glass cannon thing and then wanted to talk... Okay, so... One idea was to make the time to kill longer with less modifiers. And then the other one was to make it shorter with more modifiers. So instead they made it shorter with no modifiers. I think it takes a space engineer for that one, not a game developer. However, even small differences in gear now feel much more significant. No, they don't. Class-based rock, paper, scissors matchups have become harder to overcome, and winning while outnumbered has become virtually impossible. I mean, yeah. It's a 1v3. You removed solos and duos. What are you... What? Competing at a high level now requires significant time investment. Leveling up your skills takes a long time, and without a highly skilled trio party, grinding and preparing the necessary gear also demands a lot of effort. There's no grinding and preparing. Oh, no, he's talking about past tense with this. I mean, it's the same thing still. And class-based rock, paper, scissors is going to happen regardless when you have multiple classes in a game. Unless you put in only fighters, there wouldn't be class-based rock, paper, scissors. That's how diversity works. I came to believe that this structure hurt player accessibility and would ultimately hinder the game's long-term growth, so we made the bold decision to rework the structure entirely. That led to patch 69. Pitch, put in like a foghorn sound effect for that one. Unfortunately, due to my lack of proper explanation and the poor timing of implementing such changes mid-season, the intended message was not clearly communicated and the patch caused unintended side effects. I sincerely apologize once again for that. And instead of not doing that again, you did it again. This time at the beginning of wipe, but you still made that bold decision to just wipe it all away. Because this long-term growth thing, you've deleted the growth of your game. It's just shrinking now. I'd said I'd keep it simple, but here I am rambling on again. Congrats. My inconsistent decisions and shallow responses to feedback from various types of players have led to the current state of the game, and I now believe that this outcome is not ideal. So he's blaming the players? Shallow responses to feedback from various types of players. So because of what the players were saying, you decided to just wipe it all? You're blaming the players for wiping everything from the game? That was entirely my mistake, and I will not repeat it again. And here we go again. How? Like how? It's a lie. It's just a blatant lie. From now on, I will move forward with clear focus towards the final vision we have for the game. The final vision. What do you mean, the final vision? Are you already thinking about the end of this game? You're not going to think about what can come next, but where it can end? Is that what that's supposed to mean? This does not mean that I will stop listening to player feedback. Yes, it does. Rather, it means that I want to stay true to the direction we are aiming for, filtering feedback through that lens without being easily swayed. So if somebody doesn't say what you want to hear, you're not going to listen. That is what that says. To put our future direction more simply, we will move away from the current model where investing time makes a player's character increasingly powerful, and instead shift toward a model where players become increasingly wealthy. So because I play the game so much, I can't be more powerful in it, and instead I just get gold. Whoop-de-doo. Throw some confetti on the screen there. I just get gold. I can't spend it on anything because it won't make me more powerful, but I can get gold. I can get my number up. My pixels instead went from 1 to 2. Of course, players who invest time will still feel a certain amount of power growth and advantage, but I want to ensure that opponents will never feel completely hopeless when facing them. Congratulations. You did it now. Getting rid of everything made it to where you can't feel hopeless. There's nothing to lose or nothing to gain. To speak a bit more specifically about the current state of the game, I'm generally satisfied with where things are now, and I plan to use this point as the foundation for further tuning. We have a 3K player high, and it's going down. And he's generally satisfied with how things are. While not yet fully confirmed and therefore not included in our internal roadmap, just talked about giving the players a roadmap, and now he's talking about his internal one. I would like to introduce systems such as a mastery system that grants additional bonuses based on your proficiency with individual weapons or armor. For example, gaining +1 true damage when reaching max proficiency with the stiletto dagger, or gaining a slight increase in armor rating when maxing out proficiency with a fine cuirass. In theory, you know, it could be cool, but it's just not. It's not this game. Like, at this point, just get rid of Dark and Darker and make a new game entirely. Additionally, based on our previous multi-class testing, we're also considering a training system resembling a subclass concept where players could allocate levels across multiple classes within a 20 level cap. To make this possible, multi-class setups, particularly those involving Sorcerer, will need to be tested again, possibly as part of a special event. Okay, that makes sense. You gotta test something out, a new concept out. Okay. As for the quiver, oh dear. Development has been paused because our original idea was to support various types of arrows. Fire, poison, ice, etc. And that would have been cool. And we haven't yet had the time to fully explore and finalize that concept. What are you not finalizing about that concept? You said it. You said the concept here. It's right here. Different types of arrows. Fire, poison, ice, etc. All you got to do is put an object to the name now. You made the concept. It's there. It's right there. I understand that many players simply want larger arrow stacks or a quiver that works like a gold container, but in my view, rangers are already strong enough. So for now, I would prefer to keep some element of inventory resource management in place. I ask for your understanding on this. I understand, alright. I'm also well aware that many players are dissatisfied with the sense of reward from item acquisition. I wonder why? We have no intention of keeping things in their current state forever. That's why the single-line random modifiers being tested on the test server were not included in this semi-wipe because I wanted to first establish a clear foundation for that kind of combat style we aim to deliver. What? You had to give us the appetizer of nothing before the full plate of... what? Dust? You're gonna add back a single modifier, but first you had to throw all of your audience off? That said, this doesn't necessarily mean that random modifiers will return in the future. Okay. That, like... what? You want to add one-line random modifiers that you tested. But that doesn't mean you're going to. Okay. However, we believe that each class must have multiple viable builds, and for now, we are focusing on making those builds work properly within the current baseline. After that, we'll consider whether it's possible to create something interesting through the goldsmith service using gems. That's another thing. I'm not going to get into that. I'm sure a million other people with much more, views and outreach have gotten to that, so I'm not going to. This semi-wipe will serve as solid opportunity to establish and refine the standards for combat and game modes in preparation for the upcoming EA7 season. I welcome criticism as a sign of interest, but I also hope you'll continue to provide feedback so we can build a better game together. We haven't been. We haven't been. Final line. It saddens me to hear claims that we're intentionally ruining the game, because you are. You literally are. You said you were. I remain full of hope for its future and still have plenty of energy. Good for you. No, none of your players do. None of them. All of us will continue doing our absolute best to help the game grow and evolve. You haven't been, and we are truly grateful to everyone who continues to support us through all the challenges. Thank you. You don't have support anymore. Everybody in the Discord is crying about the game. Like, boom. Here's a guy saying that. There's another guy saying rip dark and darker. This guy's complaining about it. Here we go. More complaining. This guy's spamming a message that somebody already said. More complaining. Let's scroll all the way down. That's rage bait. There's no way. And that's the issue. But yeah, that's the burnt bread and rice scraps that we were fed today. I don't even know. This is nothing. It's basically, get good, like what I like, or don't like it at all. But he doesn't even say that last part. Like, this guy right here, I don't know who he is, but an amazing line. Imagine a chef at a restaurant saying this: "We do not chase delicious formulas for edible food. We serve slop and you will eat it happily." I'll end it there. Stop playing this game, people. It's bad. It's bad. Give them negative reviews. Let other people know what is wrong with this game. Try to make something change. Try. I'm holding out. I really am. I haven't deleted it yet. I'm trying. But yeah, just don't play it. Don't play it right now. Try to, get people to say something, make videos, say something. Hopefully it gets seen. Peace.